Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, you name it, and of course the Occupy Democrats Network. I have some breaking news. Well, according to the Pushing the Limits radio show, it's breaking news, and I have some important news for you. So we're streaming live on Occupy Democrats, where you can support the show by smashing that subscription button. Now, when you smash that subscription button, and the support is only $5 a month, you're going to have access to my weekly private shows every Friday at 2:15 p.m., basically just 15 minutes after this show ends. So subscribe today, and we'll be talking later this week. And, of course, we're streaming on X, TikTok, YouTube, the Facebook fan page, pretty much everything. So please, as I mentioned before and I mention again, subscribe on the Occupy Democrats page. And then we will go from there where you'll get some extra content every Friday after this show. So kind of some post-show content, private content only for those subscribers. We have a great show lined up for you today as well, of course. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking to a man who was in the U.S. Navy for 16 and a half years. He worked in the Pentagon, also worked for the Department of Homeland Security. His name is Brad Berkwood. He's going to be joining us here in a couple minutes. Before we get to Brad, though, and he'll have a thing or two to say about this, I have to play you some of this audio from one of Donald Trump's attorneys, John Sauer. He's trying to argue with the appeals court judge in Trump's presidential immunity appeal that Trump could order SEAL Team 6 to murder a political rival and not just get charged unless the Senate voted to convict him. You have to listen to this clip because it is absolutely mesmerizing.
President ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6.
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that.
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is no.
My answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate. In these exceptional cases, as the OLC memo itself points out from the Department of Justice, you'd expect a speedy impeachment and conviction.
Absolutely and positively ridiculous. By the way, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. representing Donald Trump? That guy's doing a very good Robert F. Kennedy Jr. impersonation. Absolutely absurd. Basically, the president has total immunity. But let's just let the Senate vote on it first. We don't want it to be political prosecution, but we're going to let the most political people decide whether the president should go to jail or not. I mean, it's absolutely and positively ridiculous. And then there's Trump's spokesperson, Liz Harrington, also making the case after these ridiculous court proceedings that Trump deserves immunity. Listen to this Trump surrogate just make an absolute ass of herself.
I mean, if you can take any political action, an official duty as president, and then try to make it criminal after the fact, well, certainly no prior president, when you're talking about the Clintons, when you're talking about the Obamas, the Bushes, would be safe, especially given their actual corruption. And here you have President Trump, who wasn't corrupt and who was acting in his official capacity, not just because he had an interest of the people. The people were asking him to look into this rigged election. He had an oath and a duty to do so.
Okay, let's just go back and review there, Liz. Good old Liz, another Trump surrogate buffoon, complete idiot. So Barack Obama's the one that's corrupt. Funny, last I checked, in his 8 years in office, he didn't have any major scandals. But according to good old Liz, who wears the Donald Trump knee pads, Barack Obama was the one that was corrupt. And Trump wasn't corrupt at all. Oh, no. Trump wasn't corrupt at all. In fact, to the contrary, all he cared about was the American people. Can anybody take anybody like this seriously? Liz Harrington is a complete fool. And any other Trump surrogate that says, oh, no, it's Obama that's the corrupt one, and Trump is the good old wholesome Christian boy, the orange man. Can you make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen? You can't. These people are so far off the train. It's unbelievable. And coming up a little bit later in the program, speaking of off the train, we're going to talk a little bit about what took place in Washington, D.C. this morning. Hunter Biden was actually in the House chambers, and Republicans just made themselves look like clowns once again. And we have some incredible audio to play for you. But before we get to that, to comment on this audio, the guy we have with us right now, he worked for the Department of Homeland Security. He's in the U.S. Navy for over 16 years and also worked in the Pentagon. So I know he's going to have some opinions on this and a lot. Of course, he's also a political activist and the host of the Bad Brat Berkowitz Show. Brad Berkowitz joins us right now on the line. Brad, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me on, brother. Let me correct one thing, because the MAGA haters are going to come out at me. I did 20 years and 28 days in the Navy, and 16 and a half of it, what you said at the beginning, the 16 and a half was I worked at Intel. So, because you know how they are. They're going to
I know how some of these MAGA people are, but you certainly have a tremendous amount of experience. So the first question I want to ask you, as someone who served this country, and by the way, thank you so much for your service. What do you make of that audio that I just played, that I believe you heard, where basically you have Donald Trump's attorney in a courtroom saying the things that he's saying and basically making the case, or at least trying to make a case to the judge there, that basically Donald Trump has immunity? I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, first, I want to agree with you. When I was listening to it, I said, holy shit, I don't know if we can curse on this, but I said, holy shit, he's got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. defending him, because the guy sounded like, I was like, oh my God.
Right.
The first thing I would say is good for Judge Pan for pushing back on his attorney who's obnoxious and saying, I asked you a yes or no question. See, as you mentioned in my show, that's what you have to do with these type of people, the Giuliani's, the Trump and his lawyers, because they'll double talk you, they'll over talk you. You have to push them yes or no. It's a yes or no question. It was ridiculous. And it made me to think back to 2020 when he did the Bible stunt, and the National Guard, and I believe it was the Park Police, gassed peaceful protesters. You know as well as I do, if Trump, first of all, he isn't immune from what he did, but if he was allowed to, he would try to have Navy SEALs assassinate a political opponent or somebody he didn't like. Absolutely, he would do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, you've seen Don Jr. talk about, I've got Navy SEAL friends. First of all, Don Jr. has no friends, but it's always he has Navy
Just Kimberly
SEAL.
Guilfoyle, yeah.
You know, exactly, except for, as I call it, gargoyle. But yeah, it's
really, you know, you're somebody that risked your life for this country. You put it all on the line. And like I say to so many people, you know, your service, you're a hero. And when you hear Donald Trump's own attorney basically making the case that you can, you know, go after one of your political rivals by possibly murdering them or putting in that plot, and somehow that's not criminal unless the Senate votes on it, is probably the most ridiculous legal argument I've ever heard in my life. What do you make of that?
You're preaching to the choir. I just, as you were playing a clip, I was shaking my head. I may have already seen it and heard it, but when you're like, is this America? Right. Is this Russia? What country are we in anymore? Because it's ridiculous. And you know, everybody that's going to get questioned by the media today or tomorrow, especially today, the Republican side, is going to be, well, you know, he didn't mean it like that. He meant it like this. They took him out of context. BS. The lawyer meant what he meant, and we know what Trump would do and what he would do in the second term.
I want to ask you something else, because you spent a lot of years working in the intel business. You were at the Pentagon. You hear people like Vivek Ramaswamy saying they hid the Hunter Biden laptop story for us. That was election interference. And my response to them is, first of all, you have no idea what's in the Hunter Biden laptop, number one. And number two, we haven't seen or heard anything in that laptop that would lead anybody to believe, unless you're a MAGA Republican, that somehow Joe Biden broke any laws. You were in the intel business for many, many years. Like I said, you worked in the Pentagon. What do you make of these claims by the Vivek Ramaswamys and the Donald Trumps of the world that the FBI and the CIA hid the Hunter Biden laptop story?
It's absolute bullcrap. And if you want to talk about that, remember when Tucker used to have a show when he was on Fox and not Twitter? Yeah. And the laptop was on the way, and then it got lost in UPS or somebody lost it. Yeah, it's all bullcrap, Brian. It's all bullcrap. But the problem is 20, 25, 35, 40%, whatever it is of the country, believes every ridiculous statement these people say. There's nothing you can tell them to the contrary, because you've never seen somebody like Trump do, an ex-president, Republican or Democrat, I don't care what side you're on, do what Trump has done since the day he lost the election to today. And Vivek is a clown. He's an absolute clown. And like I said, and I mean it, all he is Donald Trump with a little bit darker skin. He wants to be Donald Trump, and he's ridiculous. He's just he's an idiot.
And I agree with you. And to take it a step further, Brad, you hear so many people on the far right today, they make it sound like George Soros and everybody in the FBI and the CIA, everybody in the intel business is a liberal. Now, you would be the right person to ask this question. I think I know what the answer is, but is it fair to say that it's pretty diverse? There's a lot of Republicans and Democrats in the intel business that are working right now in the Pentagon and did what you did.
100%. A lot of look, I worked with Democrats, Republicans on both sides. And the one thing prior to Trump and this insanity in Congress, the Greens, the Bobarts, the Gates, and Cruzes and Senate, is that they were apolitical. We could argue about policies or when Kerry was running against Bush or whatever. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we cared about the country and we cared about democracy, like John McCain. I didn't agree with probably 98% of what John McCain politically. But as a person, a war hero, which Trump just attacked him again with the arm thing, and they laughed at it. It didn't matter. I just had Frank Figliuzzi, who's a good friend of mine, on my show yesterday. He used to be the assistant FBI director of counterintelligence, the FBI. The FBI is apolitical. They're apolitical. They go to work and they do a job. Yeah, sure, there's some Trumpers in there now, just like there's Trumpers in the military. I know that. But you didn't really hear about them until Trump came along. So no, you didn't see this insanity. But with Trump, you see a little bit more. But it's amazing, Brian. Everybody, the FBI, the CIA, Homeland Security, every juror that they could possibly pick that they haven't picked, everybody's against Donald Trump. There's no one that was ever more crucified than Donald Trump, maybe Jesus Christ. But to the MAGA cult, Jesus Christ, and I say this all the time, if Jesus comes back to earth, he's going 0 for 2 if they put him up against Trump, because he's going to get crucified and Trump's going to walk away.
And you're right. And again, as somebody who served like yourself, explain this to me. And I know you don't speak for other members of the military, but as you know, there are a lot of service members that former service members that still support Donald Trump. When Donald Trump said that he didn't respect John McCain because John McCain was captured, I can't understand, no matter how much you hate a policy from the other side, how you could vote for somebody like that. Explain that to me. Do you have Republican friends of yours that served like you did honorably that still support this guy? And how could they? I don't understand it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't kept in touch with a ton of people from my military days, but the people that I know, that some of them are Republicans, more Democrats, they're against Trump. They're still Republicans. They're still conservatives. They're pro-life, and that's fine. We can argue about policies, but they don't support Trump. And I said when Frank Luntz was the guy that interviewed him when he said, "I like my wars not captured."
Right.
That would have ended anybody else's campaign.
Agree.
Anybody else's.
Yes.
Whether you were a Democrat or it would have ended it.
Agree.
They doubled down, and shortly thereafter, then we had the Hollywood Access Tape. If you remember, I don't know how old you're, Brian. Back in the day, we had a candidate named Gary Hart, who was the Democratic nominee. He was on a boat called Monkey Business, and he got caught with a woman in her lap. I can't think of her name right now. I think it's Jessica Hahn, but I could be wrong about that.
I thought you were going to say Melania Trump. I'm sorry. Bad joke. Go ahead.
But it ended his campaign. Michael Dukakis wound up being the Democratic nominee. He ran against Papa Bush. He lost. Would have ended it. But with Trump and Trump supporters, nothing matters. Nothing. John McCain was sacred ground. Not anymore.
You're 100% correct. And I make this statement all the time, Brad, on my show. One of the best moments in my life, I'm 43 years old politically, is when John McCain took that microphone from that ignorant woman who said that Barack Obama was, Hussein Obama was a terrorist.
He was an Arab. He was an Arab.
Yeah, an Arab. And he takes that microphone away in a respectful way. And he says, "No, ma'am. He's a good man, good family man. We just happen to disagree on policy. Trump would never do anything like that."
No.
And the Republican Party is so distanced from that type of respect for other people that they disagree with, and the lies and the hatred and the bigotry. It's mesmerizing to me. If you're just joining us on the show, his name is Brad Berkowitz. He spent a long time in the Navy. That is for sure. He served this country honorably. Spent a lot of years in the intel business, as I mentioned, Department of Homeland Security, and spent some time in the Pentagon as well. And we're talking about the idiotic statements from Trump's own attorney yesterday, which was amazing. John Sauer, his attorney, basically saying that the president holds immunity. Even if Trump could order SEAL Team 6 to murder a political rival, you really can't make this stuff up. And by the way, Trump's made also plenty of other disparaging comments about members of the military. Even General Milley, he flirted around the idea if he could be executed. I'm sure you remember that statement as well, Brad. I mean, do you feel, as I feel, that this man is not only a danger to democracy, but he's a wannabe dictator?
100%. And add two things to that. How about going back to, I just talked about it with Frank Faguzzi yesterday, when he ran in 15, how insulting was it to the troops that were downrange?
Yeah.
When he said, and I quote, "We don't win anymore." What does that do to the morale of troops that are in harm's way?
Right.
When somebody who never served and took 5 effing draft deferments can't tell you what foot the bone spurs are in. Yes, he called us suckers and losers. And let's not forget all the members that have PTSD and traumatic injuries. And he stood in front of the bully pulpit and he said, and I quote, "It's headaches," because he minimizes our service. And I don't know how I have major agita with any veteran, I don't care what side you're on politically, that supports this guy. I don't care if you support Bush, you can come up and talk about that, the Iraq war, whatever you want to do. This guy here, and it's not that I have a problem that he didn't serve. It's I have a problem that he disrespects the military day in and day out.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, among other things, disrespecting women and minorities and religions and the color of one's skin. And people say, "Brian, what are you talking about? He's not a racist." Well, guess what? When somebody admits that they said, "I don't want black people counting my money in my casinos, I want Jews counting my money," I think that takes it off the table. He never denied making that statement. He was asked about it. So, when you make statements like that, when people show you a piece of who they might be, believe them. And
Maya Angelou, brother, Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
When people show you who are, believe them the first time.
No doubt. So I want to give you an opportunity. And by the way, I'd love to do your show sometime as well. Give people the information on how they follow you, how they follow your show, because I've watched some of it. It's great. And how could people follow you?
Okay. Well, first of all, you can check out my website, badbradberkwood.com. That's where you can find out all future guests I'm having on.
Yeah.
I do shorts now, all kinds of stuff. I got a great team behind me. My buddy Chat Jazz on Twitter does all of my clips and stuff. So I really appreciate that. If you go to YouTube, my channel is the Ringside Report web TV channel. But if you type in Bad Brad Berkwood, it's going to pull everything up. We got all kinds of variety there. And absolutely, Brian, we'll talk offline. I want to bring up.
Love to you. And Brad, let me just end again by saying this. You're a hero to this country. Thank you so much for your service and calling out truth. We need more people like you out there. And thank you so much for everything you've done in your service to this nation. We appreciate you and love to have you back again sometime, Brad. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Again, that's Bad Brad Berkwood. Does a great podcast. That guy's a hero. He worked in the intel business. He served in the Navy, served this country honorably. He worked in the Pentagon, and he tells it like it is, and I have the utmost respect for him. There's a lot of people in Washington, D.C. today that I don't have a lot of respect for. And before we open up the phone lines, oh boy, do we have a lot of information to go over with all of you. Let me start here. So we had Hunter Biden, who showed up in these proceedings today for this House Oversight Committee. And, the testimony, I shouldn't say testimony, but the opinions of people on the right compared to people on the left that were in Washington, D.C. today, it's absolutely mesmerizing. By the way, Hunter Biden didn't have to be there. He showed up. And there's a moment in this hearing where Representative Robert Garcia, who's a Democrat out of California, was asking permission to James Comer for Hunter Biden to testify at the House Oversight Committee. Have a listen to this exchange and listen to the excuse that Comer makes at the end.
Chairman, I think Mr. Biden has agreed to address this committee publicly. I just want to ask unanimous consent to swear in Mr. Biden either today or at a future meeting and have every member be able to ask 5 minutes of questioning to the witness. So I'd like to officially ask that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we object. That's not in order.
How is that not in order?
It's just not in order. Time's expired. Chair recognizes Mr. Perry for 5 minutes.
Why is it not in order? I'll tell you why it's not in order. Because the Republicans don't want the truth. And you have all these people out there, like the Gymnasium Jordans of the world, that despicable turd, and all these Republicans out there that defy subpoenas, that will not testify, and apparently the guy that you're trying to get, the criminal in the Joe Biden crime family, we don't want him to testify. You're out of order. What a frickin' joke. What a clown and pony show, these Republicans. And it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. It gets worse. Now, if I'm Hunter Biden, I wouldn't have even been there. I give him credit for even showing up. But I think we all could probably agree, the sane human beings out there, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is despicable. She's extremely stupid. And as soon as they, for lack of a better term, hand the mic to her, Hunter Biden walks out the door. It's actually pretty comical. Have a listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently, you're afraid of my words.
Whoa! Oh.
I'd like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Wow, that's too bad.
Wow, that's too bad. Oh, Hunter, apparently you're afraid of my words. No, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we're not afraid of your words. We're sick of your words because you're a dumbbell. You're ignorant. You're a fool. And you're the moron that shows pictures of Hunter Biden's penis on the House floor. I think we're afraid that Marjorie Taylor Greene might sexually assault Hunter Biden. That's what I'm afraid of. She seems to be obsessed with his genitalia, and that's what Jamie Raskin just fires at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Have a listen to this exchange.
I ask unanimous consent to enter information for the record.
What's the information?
Oh, my God.
State the information.
Thank you.
I reserve the right to object. The minority has not provided a copy of the material for the record. In the past, she's displayed pornography. Is pornography allowed to be, or pornographic photos allowed to be displayed in this committee room, Mr. Chairman?
It's not pornography.
Okay, well, you're the expert. How do you?
I'm not an expert, Mr. Raskin.
Seems like it.
Mr. Chairman, I object to the unanimous
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on.
I just think that's hilarious. Jamie Raskin's right. It does appear that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the expert here. She's the one who showed Hunter Biden's genitalia on the House floor for everybody to see. She's the one who seems to be obsessed with nudity and pornography, and she deserves to be embarrassed and shamed for her stupidity and her behavior on the House floor. And as a politician, she's just the worst. And, you know, I love Moskowitz, Representative Moskowitz, because he just calls out the hypocrisy. Now, Republicans are claiming, oh, Hunter Biden, you know, we're going to get him under oath, testify and all that stuff. And, you know, you can't defy a subpoena. But Moskowitz points out appropriately and very eloquently in this next clip how the Republicans are just a bunch of right-wing Republican, Donald Trump knee-pad-wearing buffoons.
Listen, I'll make this bipartisan. I'll vote for the Hunter contempt today. You can get my vote. You can get my vote. But I want you to show the American people that you're serious. Here is the subpoena to Representative Scott Perry, who did not comply. I'd like to enter this into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mark Meadows. I'd like to enter this into the record, who did not comply. Here is the subpoena to Jim Jordan, who did not comply with a lawful subpoena. I'd like to enter that into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mo Brooks, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mr. Biggs, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. And here's the subpoena to Mr. McCarthy, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. There's an amendment coming to add some of those names into the contempt order. You vote to add those names and show the American people that we apply the law equally, not just when it's Democrats, right? It's a crime when it's Democrats, but when it's Trump and the Republicans, it's just fine. No, show that you're serious and that everyone is not above the law. Vote for that amendment, and I'll vote for the Hunter Biden contempt. I yield back.
Great job by Mr. Moskowitz, but I got some bad news for you. The Republicans will never do that because they are a bunch of hypocritical clowns. All these people that have defied subpoenas, including Jim Jordan, the head of the committee, the voice of the committee, Gymnasium Jordan, who I believe enabled kids to be raped when he was a wrestling coach. This is the guy who's defying a subpoena, yet let's go after Hunter Biden for contempt. You can't even come up with more hypocrisy except for maybe the case of, oh my God, Hunter Biden took $50,000 a month from Burisma, but let's just forget about Jared Kushner receiving $2.1 billion from the Saudis and Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's daughter. By the way, both in Donald Trump's administration, Hunter Biden was always a private citizen. These two people, both in Donald Trump's administration, where his daughter received in excess of over $600 million from the Chinese government. But let's not talk about that. That's not a big deal. Shrug our shoulders. But then when it comes to Hunter Biden, let's put him in contempt when all these Republicans out there have done the exact same thing, even worse. It is the definition of hypocrisy and what is the Republican clown show, ladies and gentlemen. And one guy, Representative Dan Goldman, who I love, who just tells it like it is, destroying, and I mean destroying, Trumpy traitor Scott Perry. Here's Scott Perry, and here's Goldman's response, and it is epic.
That this is a game for these folks. Sure, they want to support their guy. They don't care about America. They don't care about what the president's doing to destroy America. They're just locking arms to support their guy.
My friend from Pennsylvania also chastises us for just supporting our guy. And I wonder how he would define supporting our guy. Would he define supporting our guy as trying to instigate a coup at the Department of Justice to install a lackey and remove the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General so that he could keep his guy in office even though he lost? Is that just supporting our guy? Because that's what Mr. Perry did.
Well, another hypocrite, another douchebag, another right-wing clown in Scott Perry. Another guy, just like the GOP House Speaker, Mr. Johnson. What an appropriate name for him. Mr. Johnson, who wanted to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election. Take your votes away, the American people. And he wants to talk about right and wrong and his faith? Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then there's despicable members of the media. Hunter Biden is walking out of the House chambers. He's walking out, and there are reporters that are following him, and that's okay. They have a right to be there, and they can ask him questions. That's all right. They have the right to ask legitimate, real questions. You have a right-wing member of the media, and I put that in quotations, journalist, who's poking fun at Hunter Biden for his substance abuse issues. I think we all know somebody in our family, one person or another, who's had substance abuse issues and dealing with addiction. And as Hunter Biden is walking out today, you have a so-called member of the media journalist asking questions and making jokes about his use of crack cocaine. Have a listen to this.
Hunter, what's your favorite type of crack? Are you on crack today?
Mr. Biden, why did you put your dad on speakerphone with your business partners if you had no involvement in your business?
Do you have a dad? Does he call you?
Now, you would think that most decent human beings would call out that reporter for saying, "What crack are you on today?" with a smirk on his face, by the way, because he thinks it's funny. He thinks people with drug addictions, people that have suffered, and so many people that lose their lives to drug overdoses every day. See, ladies and gentlemen, these are the same people that are talking about the fentanyl crossing the border and all the people that have lost their lives, which is, by the way, tragic. But these are the same people that'll ask Hunter Biden those types of questions and mock and make fun of Hunter Biden for his drug use. But yet they claim they care so much about innocent people in this country that have addiction. They claim they care so much about all this fentanyl crossing the border. They care so much about people that are dying every day from drug overdoses. But if it comes to the president's son, a private citizen, they have no problem asking questions, not really questions, just making ridiculous statements to try to go viral and mocking somebody for at one point in his life having a drug addiction. And some of the most prominent right-wing turds that are on social media today are praising this reporter. Yes, that's right. Tim Young, who is a right-wing coward and a moron, went on social media today playing that clip, and he called that person, quote, a brilliant reporter, asking Hunter Biden. A brilliant reporter. There's nothing brilliant, Tim, about somebody outside the House chambers making statements and poking fun at somebody for having a drug addiction. There is nothing fun about that. But again, Tim Young is the same guy who talks about fentanyl crossing the border and wants to give, I guess you could say the statistics, for lack of a better term, of all the people that have substance abuse issues and have died. But yet when it's Hunter Biden, it's okay to poke fun and make fun of him. And apparently if you make fun of somebody that has an addiction or had an addiction, that makes you a brilliant reporter. Tim Young is despicable. Carmine Sabia, who I was actually speaking to on social media today, who I might have come on the show, he said, I didn't have a sense of humor today. And he called the reporter who asked those despicable questions and those statements the reporter of the year. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. Benny Johnson, another right-wing fool, who did a bunch of smiling emojis in posting that clip. What if that was a Republican? What if it was a Republican? What if somebody mocked Mitch McConnell for freezing up? Now, Democrats didn't do that. In fact, it was Joe Biden that picked up the phone and called Mitch McConnell to see how he was doing. Democrats all over the country were wanting to know, Mitch, are you going to be okay? Thoughts and prayers for you and your family. But why is it when something tragic happens, or it has to do with addiction, or maybe Paul Pelosi, who almost gets murdered with a hammer, that Democrats in office, or I should say Republicans in office, mock those types of situations? Matt Gaetz and Ted Cruz called him a vegetable when it was Fetterman that had a stroke. We didn't hear those comments from Democrats when Mitch McConnell froze up, did we? Why is it's okay to attack Democrats and make fun of them when they have addiction issues, or when Paul Pelosi almost gets murdered and then Ted Cruz goes on social media and says it was a gay relationship and he let him in? And then when the investigation proved that that was a lie and a conspiracy theory, no retraction. Ted Cruz didn't apologize to the Pelosi family. See, because it shouldn't matter what your political beliefs are or whether you agree or disagree with someone when it comes to their political beliefs. When something tragic happens to somebody, anybody with empathy, a decent human being, reaches out and says, boy, thoughts and prayers, we hope you're okay. That's what Joe Biden did with Mitch McConnell. That's what Joe Biden does when tragedy strikes. That's what Joe Biden did when the word came out that Melania Trump's mother had passed away. We didn't hear any Democrats in office today or yesterday making jokes about Melania Trump or her mother. No, we didn't hear that. But yet, when you have a man, a private citizen, happens to be the president's son, who clearly has suffered from addiction, drug use for a good portion of his life, who's sought help, who's spoken honestly about his addiction, we have a so-called reporter who mocks him for it, asked him if he's on crack today. And you have those on the far right, the MAGA far right deplorables, praising the reporter. And then when you call out that type of behavior, their response, I got it myself today. Brian, get a sense of humor. Do you think I don't have a sense of humor? I'm going to open up the phone lines now. What do you think about what took place on Capitol Hill this morning? What do you make of the Republican clown show? What do you make of the fact that James Comer won't let Hunter Biden testify? What do you make of the fact that so many on Capitol Hill are hypocrites? They defy their own subpoenas, but yet they want to go after Hunter Biden, hold him in contempt. What do you make of the charades from Donald Trump's, one of his own attorneys yesterday? Folks, I told you and I warned you that it was going to get worse. The Republican Party is going to even turn more crazy, if that's possible, and they are in real time, and I'm going to open up the phone lines now. The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to do so. 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. Let me tell you something. When it comes to substance abuse issues and drug addiction, lost my sister last year, and this is very difficult for me to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's important. Lost my sister at the age of 37 to a drug overdose. She suffered from back pain, and it started with painkillers and then led to other drugs. I know a thing or two about what an addiction can do to somebody. And sadly, I lost my sister because of it. And if somebody made a joke about my sister, like this so-called reporter did to Hunter Biden today, I don't know what I would do, but I know that I would be furious, and it would be extremely upsetting. So if you Republicans out there really care, I hope some of you do, but if you Republicans care more about just scoring political points and putting that aside, if you care about all the illegal drugs that are coming through the border, if you care about the fentanyl, then don't condone this type of behavior of making fun of somebody that has an addiction that has been open about it. That's what took place in the House chambers today, outside those House chambers, when a reporter did that. Now, that reporter should be stripped of their credentials. That reporter should never be allowed back there, and that reporter should be called out. That type of behavior cannot happen. If you want to ask Hunter Biden questions about what you believe was possible business dealings or illegal business dealings with Joe Biden, by the way, there's no evidence to prove that Joe Biden broke any laws. But if you want to ask questions about that, that's fair game. Go ahead and do that. But nobody should be allowed to go in there and try to get their viral moment with their phone and try to make a joke and mock Hunter Biden for the drug use and the addiction that he has had for a good portion of his life. And by the way, he's been open and honest about it. That's another question I ask all of you. Why is it that Republicans seem to think that this behavior is okay when you're mocking a Democrat? How do you condone this sort of behavior? Again, that phone line is 702-221-7283, 702-221-SAVE. Let's get to those phone calls, and let's start off with Sharon, who's first up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi. The reason I'm calling is because I've never had a problem with drug addiction, nor has anyone in my family. But I think the Republicans don't want Biden Hunter to testify in public because they plan all kind of negative things to do to him, and that's just not right.
Yeah.
If the testimony is done in public, people can see what's going on, and that's only right.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Sharon, and the bottom line is this, too. Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and Hunter Biden is a guy that certainly had demons that he's faced in his life, but the reason why they don't want Hunter Biden to testify publicly is because there's literally no evidence or information that could lead anybody to believe that Joe Biden committed any crimes. And this is the whole part of the case. They're trying to prove that it's the Biden crime family and that Joe Biden did this and he did that and he was involved in all of Hunter Biden's business dealings. When the fact of the matter is they have no evidence to prove that. And, you know, James Comer wants to show a $200,000 loan that Joe Biden apparently had a deal with his brother, and they want to correlate that to corruption. And meanwhile, in the same week when all this is going on, we've learned that Donald Trump received in excess, and it's probably more, of $8 million from foreign governments. And yet we don't hear a peep from Republicans about any of this stuff. Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, all the people that took advantage financially of Donald Trump when he was president in office. But yet they want to go after Hunter Biden. I mean, it's really comical and it's embarrassing. And I don't know how any reasonable Republican could support this.
I don't either. And I think it's because they really don't have a platform to stand on moving forward in political office.
Yeah.
So what they want to do is attack and make everyone else look bad. But hey, he fessed up. He said, I did wrong. I know I did wrong. He paid back the money he owed. Hey, he's a forward-thinking person.
Right.
Whereas they're hiding behind all of these accusations, whereas Mr. Trump, I hate to call him President Trump because he's not acting presidential in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
He's done all kinds of negative things. He's talked about negatively about handicapped people. He's talked negatively about Mexicans and people who are trying to migrate to the United States. He's just a horrible, horrible man.
He's a horrible
human
being.
How they stand behind him.
Well, the first thing they'll talk about is their faith, right? They'll talk about religion and their Christian faith, the evangelicals out there, and yet they'll support a guy who's probably one of the biggest sinners in the history of this country when it comes to politicians.
Exactly.
I'm with you, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay, I'm going to go back to watching your show.
Okay.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet, anytime. Thank you. 702-221-7283, and again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Representative Moskowitz just showed a big picture up in the House chambers just now. It just happened, and it's a blown-up picture of Jeffrey Epstein standing next to Donald Trump, who we know were friends. So if Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to show pictures of Hunter Biden's genitalia, and isn't that, by the way, the go-to for so many Republicans today. Can somebody help me out with this? Because I really don't understand this. Why is it such a go-to for MAGA Republicans today that if they disagree with you, they call you a pedophile? Why is that the go-to for Republicans out there? Why are they the ones that always sexualize things? Why are Republicans the ones that are showing nude pictures of Hunter Biden in the House chambers? Why is it always Republicans who obsess over this sort of stuff? Listen, I've been called a pedophile. And I think many people on the far right don't even understand what that word means. If you're a pedophile, it means you're attracted to children. They do the same thing with Joe Biden. They call Joe Biden a pedophile. Why? Because he hugs a girl? That means a young girl? That means he's a pedophile? There are plenty of videos and pictures of Donald Trump hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not making this stuff up. You can just go on and see it right now. And the bottom line here is it's their go-to. I'm not making this stuff up. It's their go-to. 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-SAVE is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the show. All right. Let's get back to the phone calls. Let's now go to Gary, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Gary. What's going on?
I'm tired of this. You know why? What do you call it? I'm an independent, and I want to know why, if it's so important to save the country, somebody else on a radio station, somebody that's an expert at all this, because I could tell you a few things, like Donald Trump hasn't had anything to do with Epstein for over 15 years since he was at Mar-a-Lago and started hitting on one of his best friends, one of his associates' granddaughter.
Yeah.
And that's out there. But where are all these guys on the radio that want to save the country? Why don't they get on the radio with you and spar with you? Why me? I have enough problems.
Well, first of all, the first thing I would say is a lot of these people are keyboard warriors, and they're cowards. A lot of these people...
Yeah, where's this ring Alan Fraud?
Well,
why doesn't he call your show up? Both of you guys were Howard Stern fans, and Howard Stern used to call up other radio shows and start stuff. Where's the gusto? Where's all the enthusiasm?
I'm going to give you the best answer I can. And 99...
I've heard you call them up a few times.
Sure.
Not in a while.
So Gary, hear me out on this. 99.9% of talk radio is conservative talk radio. And 99% of those hosts will not have liberals on to debate. It almost never happens with Sean Hannity. Mark Levin will call all liberals idiots, but how many times does he actually invite a Democrat to come on to debate them? Same thing with Laura Ingraham, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. And like I said, 99% of conservative talk radio hosts, they're all cowards. How many times did the cancer himself, Rush Limbaugh, ever have a liberal on his show to debate? I speak to many Democrats that would gladly go on some of these shows. But these Republicans don't want to do it. And they don't want to do it
I'm talking about.
Because
they're
they're cowards.
Debate and discussion.
I agree. And they are cowards. And anybody who knows me knows I am never afraid of a debate. And I have more Republicans and MAGA supporters on this show than I have Democrats. I had the Q shaman on this show last week. I mean, so these are the types of interviews that I do on a regular basis. And the Sean Hannitys and the Ben Shapiros and the Laura Ingrams and the Mark Levins, they are a bunch of yellow cowards is what they are. And
you know what? You know
that's
what
they
I hate?
are.
I hate when I hear falsehoods and lies and distortions of history on a right-wing show, because I lean towards the right. I do lean towards the right. When I hear lies, like when they keep repeating the big lie that the hostages in Iran were released because Ronald Reagan was being inaugurated, and they were so afraid of him. That is the biggest lie in history, because they released the hostages for a big, giant sum of money that they needed because they were at war with Iraq, and because the Republicans said we're not giving any of their money back to them until Ronald Reagan is inaugurated that day. That's how
I'm going to tell you,
down.
Gary, I'm with you, and I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. I will also say that if Ronald Reagan knew what has happened to the Republican Party, he'd be turning around in his grave right now. It's disgraceful. I am friends with a lot of good Republicans that are Reagan-type Republicans, and there's not many of them left. I'll tell you that. Thank you, Gary. 702-221-7283, and again, the number to call, MAGA supporter or not. What do you make of questions that Hunter Biden received as he's walking out of the House chambers and they're making jokes about his drug addiction? 702-221-7283. Let's go to Herb, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Herb.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call again. Just to answer your question you just put out, I think it's wrong. Making those comments like that in the background, but they were wrong to asking those questions like that. I thought it was wrong at the time when I even heard it. However, you say that conservative radio talk show doesn't have liberals on the show. Joe Biden been on Fox News.
Okay, so Herb, hold on. By the way, Herb, can you get in a better area because your phone is a little bit staticky. But I think
now? Can you hear me better?
You're better now. So let me answer your question. I never said Republicans and conservatives and right-wing radio never have Democrats on. What I did say was 99% of the time they don't. Mark Levin never debates a liberal. Sean Hannity, I know he's had Gavin Newsom on a few times, but 99% of when he's on the air, he doesn't debate or have liberals on. Laura Ingraham almost, hold on, let me just finish. Laura Ingraham almost never has Democrats on. And if you want to talk about the local buffoons that do right-wing radio here, they do the exact same thing. When was the last time Wayne Allen Kook actually debated a Democrat or a liberal? Never, because he's a coward. I am willing to debate I am willing to debate anybody from Alex Jones to Vivek Ramaswamy to Donald Trump to anybody on the far right.
Oh, listen. I don't.
Your phone's cutting out again, my friend. Put him on hold and let's take the other call. Herb, I'm going to put you on hold. Get to a better spot and we'll get back to you and we will continue the conversation. Speaking of talking to people that are MAGA supporters that I disagree with, I'm still always willing to take their call and having a respectful conversation if they're willing to do the same. Let's 702-221-7283, 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Julie, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Brian. How you doing today?
I'm okay, Julie. What's on your mind?
Okay. First of all, I want to say that Trump has an international real estate portfolio. Trump was not running his business during his tenure. His son Eric was running his business.
So what?
The money Trump received, let me finish. The money Trump received was because of his worldwide businesses. Joe Biden and his family
Not true. Not true.
Business. Yes, it's true.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's true.
No, it's not.
But
No,
let's
it's not.
Yes,
no, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. No, Julie. Jolie, it's Julie.
Opinion.
It's not my opinion.
I know what I'm talking
no,
about.
You don't. You don't
I know what I'm talking about.
No, you don't. I know in your MAGA head you think you know what you're talking about, but I'm going to try to give you some facts, and Julie probably won't listen. Julie, there was an oversight committee that investigated Donald Trump's business dealings. While he was president, he received over $8 million from foreign governments. Guess who didn't deny that, Julie? Not you. Not Julie, the MAGA caller who calls into Pushing the Limits. Donald Trump's own son, Eric Trump, didn't deny it. Now, you probably are unaware of this because you watch Newsmax and Fox News and OAN. But I'm going to give you some truth, and you could go online and look at it if you don't believe me, Julie. Not only did... are you going to be quiet, and are you going to listen, Julie? How can I have a conversation with you? Eric Trump... I'm trying to educate you. Eric Trump did an interview and was asked about this. He didn't deny it, that they received over $8 million. And the excuse he made was that they gave all of it back to the U.S. Treasury. Guess what? That was investigated as well. And we learned that they only gave back 10%. So if you don't believe what I am saying right now, go look at Eric Trump's own words. Are you unaware that Eric Trump did an interview about this, Julie?
No, I'm aware of everything.
Okay,
Brian,
so you know what Eric Trump... So you know that Eric Trump didn't... So you know that Eric Trump didn't deny it then, right, Julie?
Okay, there is no problem with that. There is nothing
okay, so you agree that Eric Trump didn't deny it, then what the hell are you talking about?
You don't understand business then.
I don't want to what? I'm sorry?
You don't understand real estate business then.
I don't
You don't
understand.
right?
I don't understand. Hold on.
Let me ask
So
you.
I don't.
No,
Hold on. So I don't. Hold on. So you're making the correlation that Brian doesn't understand business because I'm quoting what Eric Trump said in an investigation where they took an excess of $8 million from foreign governments. Eric Trump doesn't deny it, and he says they gave it all back to the U.S. Treasury, when actually, when Trump was president, they gave back less than 10%. And because I'm reciting facts to you, Julie, somehow you perceive that as, quote, you don't know business. Julie, what are you talking about?
It's Trump business. It's not anyone business.
He was the president of the United States, and he accepted money from foreign governments. What do you mean it's nobody's business? What are you talking about?
Don't yell at me. Trump donated his
You drive me crazy because you can't add 2 plus 2.
In
What part of,
fact, you
Potter
are
down
doing
again,
to me
what
because
part of
you
this do you not understand that when you're the president of the United States, you can't accept money from foreign governments, and if you do, you have to give it all back, and Donald Trump didn't do that. What part of that? You don't have to be a very intelligent person to understand that you can't do that.
Because you're losing your argument, the bias.
How did I lose my argument? And how did I lose my argument? With facts? I'm losing the argument?
The fact is that Trump donated his entire salary.
Oh my God! Potter down. This is it's the potting down championships, ladies and gentlemen. So according to Julie, if Donald Trump gives back his salary, that's okay to take money from foreign governments. As long as Donald Trump gives back his salary, then it's okay to break the law. Julie, do you realize how dumb you sound?
That's money from his hotel, not from other, not like.
And who owns his hotel? And who? Hold on, let me ask you. Who's the one who profits from Donald Trump's hotels?
Oh, the one profits.
Julie, I want you to try to focus. Julie, I want you to try to focus. Julie,
who's going to Donald Trump's hotel?
Julie, I will answer your question when you answer mine. My question to you, and then you get to ask a question. Does that sound fair? Is that fair?
Okay.
Do we have
okay. But don't yell at me again.
Okay, Julie, I need you to focus. I yell because you don't answer my questions. Now I'm going to ask a question. You're going to answer it. Julie, let's stop the childish behavior. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to answer it without any extra commentary, and then I will answer one of your questions. When foreign governments go to Trump hotels and they spend money at Donald Trump hotels, who is the person that profits from that? Please give me an answer.
Well, not invested in Trump hotel.
Julie, Potter down again. Julie, this is why I yell at you, because you're not capable of answering a question. I'm going to give you an opportunity one more time to answer my question, and if you don't answer it, I'm going to move on. If you answer my question, even if I disagree with it, I will answer one of your questions. I don't need your commentary. I'm going to ask it one more time. During the years that Donald Trump was president and foreign governments went to the Donald Trump hotels and spent millions and millions of dollars at Donald Trump-owned hotels, who is the person that benefited financially from those visits? Please answer my question, Julie, and we're going to pod you back up. Go right ahead, Julie.
International portfolio, real estate businesses. Brian.
Could you please answer my question? I'm going to ask it now for a fourth time, and let's see, Julie, if you can.
What kind of business has Biden?
Pod you down again. Okay, one more time. So, Julie, this is why I yell at you. The question wasn't about Joe Biden, and clearly you are not intelligent enough, honest enough, logical enough to answer a very basic question. But this is what I'm so glad you called, Julie, because this is what MAGA people do. When you trap them in a corner and they're forced to answer a question, they still won't answer it, and they'll answer it by talking about Joe Biden or the Hunter Biden laptop. It's really comical and it's pathetic at the same time. Here I am asking, and by the way, Julie, the answer is Donald Trump. Now, that's a very honest answer, and it's a very easy question to answer, and it's the type of answer that Julie is not capable of answering because she's the type of person that won't blame Donald Trump for anything. All the indictments and all the crimes and everything that Donald Trump has said and done, it's always an excuse. Julie, I'm not listening to you because you're not capable of answering a question. If you're going to call back to the show, when I ask you a question, you answer it. And you don't answer it with Joe Biden, Joe Biden. If it's a direct question when it comes to Donald Trump, you answer the question. And if you're not capable of answering questions, then don't call into the show, because I'm not interested in talking to you. If you're going to have a conversation with somebody, you answer. And look at that. You're still talking. Julie, I hope you get the help you need, okay, because clearly you need some help. Holy smokes. Now, if she had answered my question honestly, which is the obvious answer, and said Donald Trump, because obviously Donald Trump is the one that profits from people staying at the Trump Hotel and foreign governments staying at the Trump hotels, which, by the way, they did, then I would have answered her question. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. All right, let's take another phone call. Our phone lines are full. If they're busy, please try to call back. Let's go to Charlene, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Charlene.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Charlene. How are you?
I just have one question I would like to ask. Do you think any of the mega people have noticed that everyone that goes out and do something for Trump, they end up in jail?
That's
Every party that Trump has, he's never invited any of them.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's supposed to be all in their corner, and they're supposed to be all for him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do anything for them. They do everything for him.
You see, Charlene, that's the way a logical person thinks, Charlene, and you're absolutely 100% right. And I actually talked about this yesterday. When you look at Meadows and Sidney Powell, and you talk about Michael Cohen, the fixer, and all the people that have surrounded themselves around Donald Trump, almost all of them are either filing for bankruptcy, convicted felons, having to show up in a courtroom and answer. They're flipping on Donald Trump. You surround yourself around Donald Trump, he's the most unloyal person you'll ever meet. He's attacked people and gone after people that haven't always agreed with him. I mean, the list is so long. But you know what, Charlene? These people obviously they have terrible judgment, because they think that if they, like the Mike Lindells of the world, they think if they surround themselves around Donald Trump, it's great for their business and it'll grow their capital gains and everything they do, when it's the absolute opposite. So you ask these people these questions.
They're giving him all of the money, and he's the one that's ripping them off, and they don't understand what he's doing to them.
It's a good point. It's a good point, Charlene. And you remember when he claimed that he... Remember, Charlene, when he claimed that he was fighting election fraud? Do you remember that after when he claimed the 2020 election was stolen, which he still does, by the way? And he got hundreds of millions of dollars from some of his stupid, ignorant donors. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of these people spent their retirement funds. Some of these people, they couldn't even send their kids to college because they wanted to donate all their money to Donald Trump. Well, guess what? Upwards of $300 million Donald Trump took from them, and he only used $5 million of that money to fight this lie, the big lie of election voter fraud. He back-pocketed the rest. But these people are too stupid to understand that, and that's what's so frustrating. Julie's one of them, by the way, who can't even answer a direct question. And she, don't yell at me, don't yell at me. It's frustrating. These people are so brainwashed. I don't know what to do with them, Charlene. I don't know.
Well, we can't do anything except pray for them, because, they're hopeless people.
I'm not praying. You know what? You're a nicer person than I am, Charlene. You sound like a very nice lady, and maybe I'm not as a nice a person as you are. I'm not praying for these people. You can't fix stupid. I don't have a problem with stupid people. I don't have a problem with stupid people so long as they don't affect my life. But ever since the Trump era started, these stupid people are a threat to our democracy. Proud Boy members, these white supremacist, right-wing fringe groups, and these MAGA people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. I ain't praying for them, and I just think there's such a big part of Donald Trump's base that are just deplorable, despicable human beings, and I'm not going to waste a second praying for them. But, Charlene, you're a better person than I am. I give you credit.
Well, there's one more thing, Brian.
Sure.
I think that everybody that knows Trump should know not to vote for him. This man is trying to take our country, and he's going to do it if we are not supportive of the Democrats or whoever is in there that's better for the country. Nobody should vote for Trump. But we know that his group is going to do it. But those people who can see the light should look at it.
Charlene, where are you listening from?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, thank you. A local in Las Vegas. Charlene, I appreciate you calling in. You sound like a very smart lady and a very logical one at that. We need more people like you, certainly here in Las Vegas and in this country. You call back anytime, okay, Charlene? Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Appreciate you. A Las Vegas local. I love it. 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE, even though I can't prove to save all of you. Let's go to Obi. Obi is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Obi?
Brian, I think that she likes you, Julie. I think she likes you, because how can we describe Julie?
Well, let me tell you this, Obi.
I don't think...
Obi, let me just interrupt you. I apologize. I do, and then you have the floor. If my fetish and what I was attracted to was ignorant Trump supporters that have an IQ of about maybe 20, maybe 25, who are brainwashed individuals that are not capable of having a conversation with somebody, then I would certainly ask Julie out on a date. But unfortunately, that's just not what I'm looking for. Go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Listen.
Go ahead.
Listen, I don't think that she's retarded.
Well, don't use that term. That's not a nice word. Don't use that. Go ahead. Not politically
correct.
All I
think is that she's stupid or she's trying to pretend to be stupid because tell me that she doesn't know about the Trump University, about the foundation. Tell me that she doesn't know about all the bad things that Trump has done to come in this program and defend something that cannot be defended.
Yeah.
There must be the reason why she's calling you is because she likes you. She likes you. She likes you to, beat her all the time because there isn't a moment where she thinks in her mind that she's coming ahead, but she's not.
But Julie, Obi, to be fair, Julie represents a huge part of the Republican Party today. She represents a huge part of the MAGA base. These are people that think the 2020 election was stolen, which it wasn't. These are people that think drag queen reading to our kids is more of a threat to our children than gun violence. This is someone who thinks critical race theory is being taught in all of our schools. These are people that have no solutions to real problems facing this country, and they think the border crisis just happened under the Joe Biden administration. These are people that are not educated. It's mostly middle America people that are uneducated people that don't understand the issues, that have been brainwashed by Newsmax, Fox News, and OAN, and they believe it. They believe all the Tucker Carlson propaganda about Russia. They believe every word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. They believe all of it. And when you become brainwashed like that, you can't talk to these people. And I've learned that very few people can turn back. Very few people, unless they're held accountable like some of the January 6th insurrectionists, and some of them have turned on Trump and spoke the truth. But it's very difficult to get through to these people, and it's also at times very stressful.
Let me tell you something, okay? In 2016, when I changed my party registration, I became an independent like you. All my friends that were my circle is Republican,
right?
Okay, they scorched me.
Yeah.
And now today, 80% of my friends, they don't want to see Donald Trump in there.
Same with me.
So
same with me.
I think listen to me. I think it's getting smaller and smaller. You understand? They don't.
Well, that's
want to say it aloud.
Well, that's what Stormy. That's what Stormy Daniels said. I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke. I don't know why.
Yeah, they don't want to say it. But quietly, I know that it's getting smaller, the circle, and smaller and smaller. And if you don't believe me,
Donald Trump's hands are getting smaller too. But you're right. To be serious, I'm making some jokes, Obi, but you're 100% right. I agree with you, and while I'm still worried, I do agree with your sentiment that I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are reasonable human beings, that are good people, that are willing to support Donald Trump anymore. I think these are despicable people that have something out for themselves. These are selfish people. These are uneducated people. But there are not a lot of decent human beings in this country that are still standing by Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there's still too many of them that are, and that's why I'm a little worried. But I do agree in the end there's going to be people like you and me that are going to do the right thing and vote for democracy. Obi, it's always good to hear from you, my friend, and I appreciate your call, okay?
And remember, she likes you, okay?
Yeah, well, I'm taken, Julie. My apologies. Obi, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. It is a huge distinction that I make between Republicans and Democrats today. As I stated before, when Fetterman had his stroke, you heard people on the far right that were mocking him, people on the far right that were calling him a vegetable, actual people that are elected in office, Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, those types of people, calling him a vegetable. I'll tell you what, Fetterman looks like he's doing pretty well to me. And when somebody like a Mitch McConnell freezes up and has some sort of medical episode, the first person to call him to see how he's doing is President Joe Biden, because that's what a decent human being does. You can disagree with Democrats and you can disagree with policies, and you don't have to like Democrats. That's fine. But Joe Biden picking up the phone and doing that is a decent human being, and it's a man of empathy, and we need more of that in Washington. And it seems like when tragedy strikes, I remember Steve Scalise. I think he's a despicable person, a hypocrite, somebody who voted against stem cell research. Guess what? Now he's, with his cancer, he's on stem cell research. Complete hypocrite. But I remember when Steve Scalise was shot. Terrible situation. Crazy lunatic shot Steve Scalise. Democrats across the country were praying for him. Democrats across the country, elected officials, were wishing him well. Why is it then we have a tragedy happened, like what happens to Paul Pelosi when he's almost killed by a crazy lunatic fringe right moron with a hammer, and people peddle conspiracy theories and they make jokes? Ted Cruz didn't wish him well. Ted Cruz didn't say thoughts and prayers. He peddled a conspiracy theory that was put forth by the Alex Jones type people of the world, that was some sort of gay relationship. Why is that? Why is it that there seems to be such little empathy for those on the extreme right? I'm not speaking about all Republicans. I know there's decent Republicans out there, and I know Liz Cheney just did The View. I disagree with her policy making probably 98% of the time. But Liz Cheney is a woman of some decency, and I respect her because she did the right thing. Mitt Romney is a man of decency. Doesn't mean I always have to agree with him, because he did the right thing. And these are people that put their political careers in the back burner and voted on what was right. And they understand the threat that Donald Trump is. They understand that. And I think what's going on in Washington, D.C. today with Hunter Biden is a disgrace. If Hunter Biden broke any laws, and clearly I guess he did, then hold him to the highest extent of the law. I have absolutely no problem with that. But none of these Republicans want to talk about Jared Kushner. The Prince of Saudi Arabia has already owned it and admitted to the fact that they gave him $2.1 billion. And the money that Ivanka has made. And I know the FBI is also investigating some of the pardons that Donald Trump gave out. That Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump were splitting profits from some of those pardons. But Republicans don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the real issues facing the American people today. So what are the real issues? Well, let me start with what the real issues are not. Drag queen reading, transgenders, critical race theory. Most Americans are not talking about these issues unless you're way on the far right. These are not issues that most people in America want to talk about. They want to talk about job security. They want to talk about health care. They want to talk about their taxes. They want to talk about they shouldn't have to drop their kids off at school and think to themselves, oh my God, is there going to be another school shooting? These are the types of real issues that real Americans, not just Democrats, real Americans want to talk about, and they're fair topics to talk about. And if you want to talk about Ukraine, if you want to talk about the Middle East, those are important topics to discuss. But many of those on Capitol Hill are not talking about this stuff. They're talking about things that virtually cease to exist, like critical race theory. And it's more of noisemaker than newsmaker these days, and it's sad, and it's unfortunate, and it's wrong. We have one of Donald Trump's own attorneys yesterday in a courtroom. You cannot make this stuff up. In a courtroom, making the argument that Trump has immunity and that Trump could order SEAL Team 6 to murder a political rival. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. And I want to give everybody a programming note before I give out that number again, and I'll give it out now, actually, 702-221-7283. And that number, if you'd like to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. Everybody watching across social media on the Occupy Democrats Network, just a reminder, subscribers, and this is new, good news, if you want more PTL, subscribers to the Occupy Democrats Network that want to support this show and keep us streaming nationally, you get your very own private show on Fridays after PTL wraps up, where I'll answer all of your questions and we can just chat, maybe have a virtual beer, so to speak. It's your call. So subscribe today to Occupy Democrats, and I'll see you live on Friday, where that extra show will start at 2:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just push that subscription button on the Occupy Democrats Network, and you'll get a personal extra show with me every Friday. So definitely check that out, and I open up the phone line, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-SAVE. What have we been talking about today? Well, there's a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump's own personal attorney with the ridiculous statements that he made in court about immunity yesterday. We're talking about the clown show that's taken place in Washington, D.C. today. Hunter Biden shows up. He didn't have to be there. He showed up, and as soon as Marjorie Taylor Greene started talking, he walked out. And the shenanigans of those on the far right and the hypocrisy of those of the far right showing again in a court in the House chambers earlier today. To this day, there is no evidence that Joe Biden committed any crimes. Right now, Donald Trump is facing 91 felony counts. 91. Now, I've had some MAGA callers call into this show before, and they'll talk about pedophilia, and they'll talk about Joe Biden. They'll talk about Biden and call him a pedophile. But yet, these same people support the liable rapist that was proven in a courtroom. They're hypocrites. We do have some breaking news to share with you. And I've talked about this. And I've talked about Chris Christie and the fact that he is now on the right side of history. But apparently Chris Christie is set to quit the Republican primary race, and it's over. And tonight, it's going to be Nikki Haley versus Ron DeSantis. So we're kind of going to be dissecting that because they're going toe-to-toe tonight. I think Ron DeSantis, if you want my opinions on Ron DeSantis, he is absolutely despicable. While I do appreciate his service to this country, what he did with those migrants, putting them on that plane to Martha's Vineyard, said everything you need to know about who Ron DeSantis is, because he's willing to use human beings as political pawns to own the libs. Disgusting, despicable. And, you know, Nikki Haley is somebody that I have at times said some nice things about. Her answer to the Civil War was an embarrassment, and then her doubling down, claiming that it was a Biden person that was appointed in there to ask the question, a third-grade question about the Civil War, made her look even more embarrassing. These are two people that I could never, ever vote for. Yes, if I was forced to, which I never would be, but if I was forced to, if it was Nikki Haley versus Donald Trump, yes, I would vote for Nikki Haley because I don't think she's a threat to our democracy like Donald Trump is, but I would never vote for her versus just about any Democrat out there. There are Republicans that I would vote for over some Democrats, some. And Chris Christie is one of them. He's on the right side of history. But I can tell you right now, this debate tonight, these two are not going to be picked by Donald Trump for VP. You have Vivek Ramaswamy, who is on the, as I like to call it, I guess for lack of a better term, Vivek Ramaswamy, lately anyway, has been on the conspiracy tour. Every town hall he goes to, he claims that January 6th was an inside job, which it wasn't. Everywhere Vivek Ramaswamy goes, he spreads conspiracy theories about the 2020 election because he's a liar. He's a snake. And Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump have a lot in common. While Vivek Ramaswamy's never been accused of rape or sexual assault, Vivek Ramaswamy peddles the conspiracy theories and the lies makes derogatory comments about the transgender community almost on a daily basis, claims that every single person that's transgender is mentally ill. Well, let me tell you something. I think any single person that sports that MAGA flag everywhere they go and MAGA outfit everywhere they go are part of a cult. I think they are mentally ill. And I'll take any decent human being that happens to be transgender and their mental capabilities over a Julie, over any MAGA supporter that is fringe right, that is part of a cult. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is part of a cult. Why? I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they would still support me. Joe Biden ever make a statement like that? No, of course not, because it wouldn't be true. Because if Joe Biden shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, Democrats would call him out for it. They would call it murder. But if Donald Trump shot an innocent person on Fifth Avenue, the Republicans would make excuses. They would say it was George Soros' fault. That's Donald Trump's base. Now, I'm not saying that that's everybody that supports Donald Trump, but they are certainly a part of a cult. I don't think there's any question about that, and I stand by that. You don't see malarkey signs on the back of pickup trucks, do you? It is absolutely 100% a cult. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. As I mentioned, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. 702-221-SAVE. Let's now go to Kathy, who is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Kathy.
Hey, Brian. This is Kathy. I'm calling from Texas. I watch you every day.
Oh, thank you.
I think the biggest problem that we have is I live in a very red district.
Yes.
And I'm very liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we cannot even have a conversation with MAGA supporters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they'll turn neighbor against neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where I find.
You know, it's interesting, Kathy, you live in Texas, and boy, you got some real winners there, don't you? Ted Cruz, Cancun Cruz, Governor Abbott, as I like to call him, Governor Abhole. I just think he's a despicable human being. It's interesting, Kathy, because after I lost my sister last year, I got a call from Beto O'Rourke. He gave me a personal phone call, and because Beto lost his sister as well. Sadly, we have that in common. We spoke on the phone for 45 minutes, and he just wanted to listen to me. And he told me that he watches my show, and he was a fan of my show, and he couldn't have been kinder. And yet, the good people, there's a lot of good people in Texas, like yourself, and yet Governor Abbott won re-election. And Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong on this, if I have my facts straight. I try to be factual on this show, Kathy. After the Uvalde, Texas shooting, before they had even finished counting all the bodies of those poor innocent people that died and those children that day, Governor Abbott that night was at a campaign rally counting his money.
Yes.
Am I right on that?
Yep. Yeah, you are.
What if a Democrat did that? What if a liberal did that? What if a tragedy like that, which I hope would never happen again, but unfortunately it probably will, if a school shooting happened and then the Democrat in that district or the Democrat that's governor of that state went to a campaign rally that night, how does he not call that off?
Well, the problem with the MAGA Republican Party is, I'm sorry, but, it's very few people who are in the middle of the Republican Party. But no, they have no sense of decency left to them anymore. Mm-hmm. It's all about how can I hurt or harm or own liberals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insanity.
Yep.
Because Houston is a very, very, very liberal city. And like Greg Abbott has gone out of his way to take power away from Austin, Houston.
Yeah.
We have like corruption that's run deep and rampant with like Paxton.
Yeah.
And everybody like that it's just insanity to me. And the Uvalde shooting to me was very personal. I mean, I've got grandchildren who go to school, in public schools.
Yeah.
And, it was like they did everything to be non-transparent. We still don't know the extent of that tragedy, and they don't care when it comes down to it.
Yep.
And there are people here who are very upset about that shooting who will never come out and say it publicly.
Yeah.
but it's easy to call a cop a coward for not going in.
You know, it's
You know what I
interesting.
mean?
No, you're right. And Kathy, we should all be, so upset, but it's like when it happens over and over and over again. And when it comes to gun control, at least Democrats have some solutions that they think would work. And I think some of them would. What if Republicans, Ted Cruz, Cancun Cruz, who is another despicable human being who goes over to Cancun when your state's in a state of emergency. And then when he goes to Cancun and then when he gets caught, he blames his kids for it because he's a coward. Ted Cruz, after the Uvalde shooting, the next day, he said the back door should have been locked and that could have prevented the shooting from happening. And he said that we need to lock our back doors in our schools. And that was the first thing he talked about. He didn't talk about gun control or even mental illness. He thought that it would have been a deterrent.
I think where we lose these people is when we talk about gun control, because I own a firearm, me and my husband, but I think that when you say the word just patrol, it turns them off. It's like reform is a good word.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful with like the words you use because they think, oh my God, they're so mindless.
You know what turns them on though, Kathy? You know what turns them on? When Lauren Boebert has a family picture, a Christmas postcard, and gives 5 and 6-year-olds AR-15s to handle, that's a turn on for Republicans.
Definitely.
Or if you're Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor showing pictures of Hunter Biden's genitalia, that's the turn on. That's the turn on for Republicans. Let's talk about Christianity. Let's talk about religion, and let's throw that down your throat. But then let's support Marjorie Taylor Greene showing pornography on the House floor, and let's give our 5 and 6-year-olds AR-15s to handle. These are despicable human beings. They are hypocrites, and they are a danger to this country. They are a danger to this country. These same types of people who chant out, "Hang Mike Pence." I am not a Mike Pence supporter, and I never have been, and I never will.
But that was just really very disheartening to even see such an act. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like when our society breaks down and we can't call out good and bad and our morals are gone, it's like, we're in big trouble here.
I think we are. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, not all Texans are bad people who are like, oh,
of
people
course not.
in Texas.
Can I ask you a question, though, about Texas, if I can?
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey, I liked his passion. I liked when and I've met Matthew McConaughey, and I actually met him personally in California. Seems like a very nice guy, and I like his movies. But there's a but here. Why is he not called out Greg Abbott? He wants to talk about gun control, and I get he comes from a very conservative family, but he speaks passionately in the White House, and I appreciate that about the Uvalde shooting. Why has he never called out Republicans in his own state? I have a problem with that. Why doesn't he just call them out for what they are? Instead, he makes general statements when he knows the party to blame for this.
I can't speak for him, but all I know is that I think that everybody was moved by the problem with the kids getting killed in classrooms. I don't know. I can't tell you what. I don't know if it's fear or if they're getting some kind of a, it's like a power thing. I have no idea, but I'm telling you, we're in big trouble if we can't get our morals right.
Well,
and I'm
you're right.
not talking about as far as Christianity, just decency. You're born either with good morals, or you're a good person, or you're just not. And
I think a part of it, I am too.
And these Christians, so-called Christians, want to preach to people about morals and what's right and wrong and everything. We've got women here in Texas who are like being put through the ringer because they abortion laws.
Oh, don't even get me started with that. But I'll end by saying this. The people that want to talk about morals and their Christianity are the same people that would vote for a guy that is a liable rapist. So that says all you need to know about these people out there. The man who says grab them by the P word and brags about it is the guy that these Christians will.
They adore him. They love it.
I know.
The more vote, the better.
I'm glad you found this show. I'm glad there are good people like you in Texas and in this country, and I appreciate your call. You call back anytime, okay?
Okay, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
You take care. Thank you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. I think we have Jacob, who is next up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Jacob.
Hi, Brian. How are you today?
Good. Jacob, where are you calling from? I got to start asking people that more because I know I get people calling from all over the country. Where are you calling from, Jacob?
I am calling from Iowa. I actually called you the other day.
Oh, Iowa. Okay, all right. Go Hawkeyes. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, my man?
Couple things I want to talk to you about these idiot MAGAs.
Yes. Yes.
For one, I know you mention the Stormy Daniels all the time because MAGAs refer to everyone that doesn't agree with them as pedophiles.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they really do.
And
yeah. Why is that? Why is that? I'm curious. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. And I talked to one of the idiot MAGAs that live in my state here, and I said, Donald Trump was found civilly liable in court for raping Stormy Daniels or for sexual assault.
Right. Correct.
And they said, well, that was Biden. Biden paid the judge to say that. Literally, that's what they told me.
Just a bunch of freaking idiots. I mean, I don't even know what else to say anymore. These people are so lost and they're so far gone. You can't find somebody better than Donald Trump. You can't find somebody with maybe a little bit better character or some sort of moral compass than Donald Trump, who is the face of the Republican Party. Let me tell you something. They're stuck with Donald Trump now. They're stuck with him, and it's their fault because they knew who he was in 2016. Why do I say that? Most of the Republicans, including Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and most of the Republican base, they called out Donald Trump in 2016. In fact, they called out his supporters. And they've been brown-nosing him ever since because they care more about staying in power than doing the right thing and saying the right things and being on the right side of history. This is where the Republican base of the party stands today.
100%. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I can't believe these people that call themselves Christians still support Donald Trump. Here in Iowa, we have this thing going on where Donald Trump made a video for Iowa that said that Joe Biden was having the FBI raid the homes of Catholics and that he was going to put Catholics in concentration camps. And he literally has this video on his website right now. And so Catholics are supporting Donald Trump now, too, in Iowa. It's like, Jesus Christ.
These people are so brainwashed and they're so delusional and they're such hypocrites. And sadly, it's torn apart friendships, marriages, all sorts of different relationships, whether it be business relationships and so on. I am friends with some people that are Trump supporters. Not many, I'll be honest with you. But there are some friends of mine that are Trump supporters. But the people that I associate with that are Trump supporters are willing to admit this and give me this, that Trump is a really bad guy. They'll talk to me about policy, and we'll have disagreements about the Biden administration. But at least they're willing to admit a couple things. Number one, Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Donald Trump is partly at fault for what took place on January 6th. And Trump is a despicable human being. And it always comes back to this. I say, okay, I appreciate that you're able to admit that, and that's why we can be friends. But why would you vote for a despicable human being? And they claim that there are some policies that Trump put in place that put more money in their back pocket. And even if that's true, which I'm not sure it's true for everybody, I don't think so. But even if that was true, you're willing to put a little bit more money in your back pocket to vote for a man who's a liable rapist? I mean, I have a serious moral problem with that.
I'm glad you brought up the policies, my friend. When you ask these people what policies they disagree with Joe Biden, they can't tell you. They can't name one.
They can't. And Julie, who calls into this show, is a perfect example of that. You know, I'll be honest with you. I get into debates and spats sometimes with MAGAs on social media, and then I say, wow, I just wasted 10 minutes of my life I'll never get back. But the argument I hear from the MAGAs who listen to this show, and there's plenty of them out there, I hear from them every day, Brian, you're a liar. You're being paid by George Soros. And my response is, okay, you can go with the ad hominem attacks. I don't have a problem with that. But give me an example of one thing I've ever said in my 20-year career on the radio that is a blatant lie. And they fumble over their words, and they can't answer a simple question. They throw things at a wall and they hope it sticks. And the people that claim that I'm a liar, which I'm not, I have a lot of opinions, but I'm certainly not a liar, are the same people that support a man who lied over 40,000 times when he was in office.
I 100% agree with you, my friend.
Yeah.
The George Soros thing, that's another one of their go-tos.
Yeah.
I noticed even on the campaign trail here in Iowa, Donald Trump's like, oh, Nikki Haley's paid by George Soros, and Ron DeSantis is paid by George Soros. And it's like, are you kidding me?
It's the go-to. They'll call you a pedophile. They'll say you're something along the lines of George Soros, and they'll say it's all the pedophiles. I'll tell you who's not on that Epstein list. Joe Biden. Biden's aren't on that Epstein list. Oh, and neither is Barack Obama, right? But I know somebody that hung out with Epstein on a regular basis. There's video of it, evidence of it. That man is Donald J. Trump, but they don't want to talk about that. Oh, he wasn't on that airplane list. You know, he was exonerated. No, he wasn't. Now, I know Bill Clinton was on the list, but there's still no evidence that Bill Clinton did anything illegal. There's nothing in that report that says Bill Clinton did anything illegal, but they'll say, well, the person that was exonerated was Donald Trump. By the way, the guy that's been accused of sexual assault or rape by 25 plus women, including his ex-wife in court documents, and the man who was proven to be a civilly liable rapist in a courtroom. But yet they want to talk about Epstein Island, and the Aaron Rodgers of the world want to, say that Jimmy Kimmel's on the list and the liberals are on the list, when the guy that they voted for is the guy that was mingling and hanging out with and dancing and checking out girls with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, my man. You just can't.
I know. I agree with you. And the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, I don't know if you've read some of the newly released court documents, but there's no way you can say he's exonerated after you read some of that.
No, of course not.
Of course girls came right out and said, Donald Trump raped me. Donald Trump sexually assaulted me. Donald Trump played with my breasts. And I mean, it's right in there. They say, oh, he's exonerated.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've thought from time to time playing with Donald Trump's breasts. I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke. That's a terrible joke to end the phone call with. But I want to say this, sir. I do appreciate you calling into the show from Iowa. Keep up the good work out there in Iowa and fight the fight, my friend. I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you got it. All right, I want to give everybody a little extra PTL information, if you will, for lack of a better term. So if you're watching right now on Occupy Democrats, I know that there's a lot of people on the FM/AM dial that are listening in, on my personal YouTube page, on my personal Facebook page, on TikTok, on X. But if you happen to be watching now on Occupy Democrats or anywhere really, please take a minute to do me a favor. I want you to do two things. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button on the Occupy Democrats page on Facebook. It's only $5 a month. A cup of coffee. Actually, I think a cup of coffee is even more expensive at Starbucks. I don't know. It'll help us keep the lights on so we can push the limits over at the Occupy Democrats Network. You get weekly subscribers that will be chatting with me, yours truly, every Friday, and support the best live stream on Facebook. So thanks in advance for subscribing. Please do that on the Occupy Democrats Network. It's only $5 a month. You also have the opportunity, of course, to check out my socials on X, formerly known as Twitter, at PTL Radio Show, on my personal YouTube page, which is also at PTL Radio Show, where I put a lot of stuff up there. But every Friday, extra content, you're going to get a chance to talk to me after every show, every week, every Friday, for subscribers to the Occupy Democrats Network, and it's only $5 a month. So please do that. You're supporting Occupy. You're supporting this show, and I appreciate all of you for tuning in and listening. All right, folks, those of you watching on the streams right now, we'll have at it tomorrow. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.